Am I still buying NIO stock or am I done buying NIO stock? Yeah, I'm still adding. That's the short answer. Yes. But I'll break it down and share a little bit more a little later in the video. This is what actually made me even bring this up or address this. This is the most recent video that I dropped on YouTube. And in the on the Twixter platform, Tillicums Ghost asked this question: if market manipulators amp up the volume again, are you pushing more in? And then went on to say, I'm thinking you're absolutely correct in the volume as the indicator. When they get the green light, it will be an obvious feeding frenzy, blue sky coming. Now, my takeaway from this was, the curiosity, and maybe some other viewers have wondered as well, if I'm done and happy with my position or if I'm still adding. So again, I'll share kind of a more in-depth response a little later. But the short answer is yes, I am still adding. I have recently, and I'll be happy to add more if we continue to see this crazy low price action. And because there were a couple of other comments that I hadn't gotten to, I figured I'd just address those right now as well. But I still plan to keep this hopefully under 8 minutes, a relatively brief video. So Marcus with the comment, love your content, Aaron. Thank you, Marcus. And he goes on to say, I'm curious about who's buying during these periods of higher trading volume. Does the balance between retail and institutional investors shift compared with periods of lower trading volume? And this is what I did, Marcus, in case you or others in the community haven't seen it. I just pulled this up. Now, this is from Chart Exchange. That's where I pull this data from. This is the NIO Reddit mentions for NIO, and it only goes back to January of 2021. But if you'll notice that at that time, NIO was trading above $50 per share. And at that time, it was also getting as many as over 1,000, maybe even over 2,000 references or mentions on NIO or on NIO Reddit. And so as that dropped off, you see the price actually came down as well. Now, this is just one indicator on the retail side. And I haven't done a deep dive to see if there's a correlation with institutional investor buying, but I will offer this. I remember watching all of the analysts trail NIO when the stock price shot up, and they all ended up trailing it up and then back down. So for me, it just doesn't shock me when Wall Street is a little lagged or delayed or behind or trailing in things. Now, I will say, coming back to really both these comments from Tillicums Ghost and Marcus were sort of related to, or relative to the institutional investors versus retail. And I do think it's worth monitoring. I do think we'll see an obvious uptick on the trade volume side of things, but we're not going to get clarity in real time. And that's just the reality. That's also why I'll continue tracking the FTDs, which are delayed lag data, but at least we get that to correlate and kind of do a comparison when we do have the big trade volume days. So that's my thought. And a couple of things just, along the line of both retail and institutional. Trent says, I think 58% is very doable. And this is in reference to the rest of the year for NIO to get to their goal for the full year delivery numbers. And Trent goes on to say, I've been very happy with NIO and Firefly sales, but disappointed with Envo in particular, the L80. I was expecting much better sales. Still overall pleased, and we should not forget we as shareholders have excellent optionality with the new processing chips, memory chips, and revenue from battery swapping as the fleet expands. I'm still convinced we see $10 this year and $20 next year. And I want to know from you all, the community, what do you think? $10 by the end of this year, $20 by the end of next year, more, less? Talk to me, drop it in the comments. Also, I see Jeffrey over here saying, waiting as usual. Thanks, Aaron. And Jeffrey, I'm curious, are you back on Twixter or not? Because I think the Mr. Overhype may have removed you from there, probably unfairly so. But I was just curious if you're back on there. And then monadgrips with the celebratory, and thank you for that. Final thoughts and really closing thoughts. I'm just going to give a little bit of about myself and my thesis and thinking. If I go with the bear thesis and am conservative and say, you know what, this price action, let's say it goes on until NIO reports full year profitability in early 2027. If that's the case, then that means I may have until, let's say, March roughly of 2027 to perhaps add if this price remains so subdued and low. And in fact, I'll pull up a different chart while I'm talking here in case this does end up being a little bit longer video. So let's do this. Transition the screen, and I'll also zoom out, because let's face it, there's a very big difference from NIO trading at the $5 range and even above $20 or $40 or $50 or $60. Big differential. Now, my original goal with NIO was, and I set this goal when NIO stock was actually shooting early on. It was in that $50 to $60 range, and as it went, I was just like, oh no, I'm going to get priced out. I won't be able to get to my goal of accumulating 2,000 total shares. So that has been my long-term view, big picture overview. And the bottom of the screen, I have it, the 3 major growth phases. So this is for me the short side of the time frame that I want to see what NIO does, meaning until probably 2029, I'm giving this more time, the stock price, I mean. And in the meantime, I was so happy, frankly, and this is maybe the only time I'll say this, but shout out and thank you to the shorts who I believe have brought this stock price down and have allowed myself and others who are true NIO longs, who do believe in this company and do think the stock price will move back up at some point in the future, the chance to really improve and increase our average and our position. Now, I won't say what my position is, but I'll give you a teaser. I probably won't end up with, let's say, a 10,000 number, but I am definitely beyond the 2,000, and I'm pretty happy with where I am. However, I have added recently, and I will continue to add if this price action, which is ridiculous, frankly, compared to what the company is actually doing. I think it's ridiculous, and so I will continue to add. And my thinking, again, kind of that bear thesis in play and in mind, is maybe I'll even get to continue adding, at crazy low prices like these until that early, maybe January to March 2027 timeframe, where I do think NIO is going to end up reporting its first full year profitability. And that's going to be a fun time to track things. But it also gives me more time, as I have mentioned now a couple of times, where I can kind of pick and choose options or have the optionality rather to add to the position in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like, if that makes sense. So while, again, I don't think I will probably end up with that big of a number, like a 10K type of number, I am definitely beyond the 2K number and very happy to be so. Very happy to have brought my price average down below $10, and yeah, I will not be afraid to continue to add to it as I'm able. Obviously, every investor is doing whatever works for them, and everybody's situation is unique and different. And in my case, I have a very high risk tolerance, but I also have a lot of craziness in my life and my schedule and stuff like that. So there are a lot of factors that come in to play with what I'm doing. And NIO is not the only stock that I'm invested in or that I believe in or I'm doing something with. But I will say this: while the others, and even including the trading that I do, maybe with the intent to make, a 100% return or a double or a triple or a quadruple or even more, I still believe that NIO with this price point has more potential upside. And even if we just look back at where the stock has already traded, and it doesn't even need to go there to outperform a lot of other things. And so that's kind of my longer-winded response and video than I intended to do. But since it was asked, I thought it would be appropriate to do a video and just address it and share my thoughts in a little bit more. Now, the reason I don't want to, well, there are different reasons why I don't want to give specifics on my position, is the original goal that I had, and that aligns with this roughly 2020 timeframe, where I also came up with, at the bottom of the screen, the 3 major growth phases that were important to me, was that I wanted to kind of have an exit price point and strategy and thinking in mind way back then, right? And so that's where I was coming up with things, and that's why I don't want to deviate or be inconsistent with what I'm thinking and doing. But yes, I have added recently, and I will continue to add if shorts and or market makers or whomever is going to continue ignoring and or suppressing price. I have no problem continuing to add, but that's just me. And in no financial advice ever. I'm not going to tell anybody else what they should do with their money. It's for you all to decide, whatever that is. And God bless you. I hope you win whatever you're doing. But let me wrap this video because I went on way longer than I intended. I was originally thinking this might be a 3-minute video, and it's closer to 10 minutes. So let me wrap it and get it up and out. By the way, it's Monday, July 20th, 2026. It's a little after noon Central Time as I'm recording it. There's your date and timestamp. Have a great day or night whenever you see this. I'll see y'all again very soon.